All right, guys, welcome back to the Shack. Today, we're going to do a quick video here at the computer, and I get a lot of questions about this. It's a topic that comes up a lot. How did I get started? How did I get started doing laser work, woodworking? Where did it all begin? And it's a big story. It's going to take a lot of different videos to probably walk you through the whole process. But this video is going to focus on getting started off with trying to build your side hustle and build it up bigger and get to where you can make more and more money. Keep in mind, guys, I am not a professional business consultant. Okay. That's not what I do. I have learned lessons the hard way. I'm going to be giving you this advice from my perspective. Okay. Yours may be different. Your situation may be different. And so just take it with a grain of salt. This is not meant to be the way to do it. I mean, I know there's a lot of videos out there that say that this is the way to do it. Just draw from my experiences, create your own opinions, create your own theories, and test it. So we're going to switch over to the computer here in a second, but we'll be right back and we're going to dive into this. All right, guys, so to give you a little background on myself so that you understand where I'm coming from. I am from the central part of Alabama. Okay. I was born and raised. My dad was a high school dropout. My mom was a high school dropout. Neither one of them, at the time that I was born, neither one of them had any kind of, GEDs or anything like that. My mom later went to get her GED and wound up getting a job outside of the home. But for the most part, my entire life, my family grew up as a family of mechanics. My dad, my mom, all of us, that's what we did. We fixed vehicles. We helped in the shop, whether you were 5 years old sweeping floors and wiping up tools, or whether you were 8 years old and actually pulling parts off a car so that your dad could fix them and put it back together. That's how things went. My first, and this is according to my parents, my first playpen that I ever had as a child was a crate from an engine that my dad had ordered to put in a vehicle. And they were looking at the crate and were like, hey, throw a blanket in there. We've got a place to put the baby while we work. So that's where I come from. Okay. I worked a job in the woods running machines, running heavy equipment with Asplin. It's a company that many of you are probably familiar with. Moved through the ranks there, became a foreman, eventually decided I want to get in law enforcement, went in law enforcement, and pretty much that's been my career ever since, has been in law enforcement. I've done everything from just general patrol functions, dive team, TAC team, sniper, detective. I worked cyber crimes. I did internet technologies. I wound up, after I've been doing it for a little while, going back to college and went for a degree in networking. And along with that, I took a bunch of other college classes to get to that point to where I could get that degree. And about 3 credits short of that networking degree, the Clack Shack started gaining momentum, and I got to where that wasn't going to be my retirement job in networking. So I decided, you know what? I'm just going to concentrate on the Clack Shack. So that's where we kind of are at that. But guys, this all started with the sawmill. I purchased a sawmill with money that I had made by traveling around the Southeast, living in my vehicle, doing security work for these different companies when hurricanes would hit, such as Panama City, Houston, Texas, a lot of hurricanes in Louisiana, some down around Mobile. When those hurricanes would hit, I had a private company. I would take vacation, and I would spend my year's vacation going to work for those companies, living in a vehicle sometimes. Sometimes we would get a motel room or, like bunk housing with the utility companies. It depended. But I used that money, I brought it back. I would keep half, the other half went into the family budget, and I saved up the money to buy my sawmill. And that's where it started, was with the sawmill. I started using that money to build things around here. You can see the walls, all the wood on the walls and the decor in here. A lot of that is from that sawmill. And so I started a Facebook page. And at the beginning, my intentions were, I'm going to try to sell enough wood and materials and stuff off of the mill, do some services for people to pay for the sawmill. And that's when I started keeping records of what I was doing. So I want to take you down below. And this is some early crude record keeping. But if you're not doing this, I definitely recommend find a way to keep up with your expenses and your incomes in the beginning, because you don't want to progress so fast that you're spending more money than you're bringing in, because then it becomes critical that you make money. And trying to start a business with that much pressure is just another thing that you got to contend with. So I'm gonna move you down to the bottom screen and show you my old school bookkeeping that I used for the first year or so. All right, guys, welcome to the very first Clack Shack means of bookkeeping. And this is very crude. Luckily, those classes I went to get that networking degree and some of the experience I had in law enforcement enabled me to build this spreadsheet, which done a pretty good job of keeping up with things for me. So as you can see right here, this was my initial, this is what I prefer to call my startup costs. This is monies that I had made doing those storm jobs and stuff out of town. And I kind of rat holed this money to make this purchase and to get my feet into it. That's very important in my opinion. If you're trying to start up a business and you're having to borrow the money to do it, it's setting you up. You're already in the red right out the gate. It's going to make things that much harder. I am not saying that you can't do it and that it won't work, but just be mindful that operating under pressure or under stress, that's just one more layer of something you're going to have to overcome as you move forward. So once I made the purchase for the sawmill, I started tracking, sales that I had made. I was selling mantles. Those things were hot commodity. I had the trailer. I would go out and collect logs that people were getting charged to have hauled off. And I would take that by saving those folks money. I would actually bring the materials back here, cut it up, dry it or whatever, and start selling the lumber. Some of the customers would actually pay me with like buying me boxes of blades because that's how I was literally on a shoestring budget. Like I was still trying to avoid putting more of my own money back into the business if I could help it. But after a while, I realized, okay, sharpening these blades or buying new blades, having to have new blades is getting expensive. The blades were kind of pricey. So I bought a sharpener, okay, and just kept selling stuff and putting the money back into the company because every penny I made, I didn't waste it. I didn't blow it. I bought tools with it. And that's the way I started out. And here's where things kind of took a turn right here. On 11/15 of 2021, I purchased my very first xTool D1 and I started using it in doing jobs with some of the lumber and materials that I had made. Well, then I started selling projects. I would do these laser engraved projects, and the next thing you know, I'm starting to get a little bit of return on the laser. And you can see I categorized all this stuff, engrave, build, whatever the case may be. Started doing a lot of tumblers, started doing all these different things on the machine. And as you can tell, over time, it got to where the laser was accounting for more of my revenue than the sawmill was. So I was like, well, hey, I need to step up my game with the laser. And on 1/8 of 2022, purchased Lightburn software and got started my venture into understanding Lightburn. Prior to that, I had been using the Laser Box Basic that came with the original xTool D1. And so Lightburn was going to open up, some new options for me. But I just kept grinding, guys. I kept engraving things. I kept making things. And if you look at the type of the sale, you'll see that engraving was kind of taken over. One thing that I did start to try to recoup my money from the sharpener, I started sharpening saw blades for other guys with sawmills in the area, and did that for a fee to generate some revenue back into the business. And I just kept going and kept going. Some of these things were bills that I did, and then I engraved them, kennel toppers and stuff like that. There was lots of jobs, but it seemed like everything was going to the laser. And so after a little while, it got to the point to where right here, I started getting bulk orders, 52 keychains. And that's when I decided, you know what, it's time to step my game up and get another machine. And that's when I purchased the xTool D1 20-watt Pro. And I also decided that, okay, this is profitable. I'm starting to get to the point to where my spreadsheet is not cutting it. It's no longer a hobby. And if you'll notice, this was in June the 25th of 2022. And the following month in July, created my LLC. I started using QuickBooks software and migrated everything over into it. And that's where we went from there. So after using the xTool D1 20-watt for a while, jobs started coming in more and more. I used the lasers to the point to where that became my primary source of income. I did, however, later build my own kiln, started drying lumber for other people, and I diversified. That was the thing that I think helped me get to where I am today with what I'm doing. Was between the sawmill, sharpening blades for people, laser engraving products for people, and drying the wood for people. There was always something coming in. And keep in mind, this is my side hustle. This was never intended to be a full-time job. That was not my goal. My goal was to be able to stay at home on the weekends, do something I enjoyed, whether it be woodworking, laser engraving, or whatever, and make a little money to keep buying tools. When I first started, guys, I had a cheap chop saw that would only chop through like 3 inches of material. I had a skill saw, impact, a couple of drills. Like I had very few tools. All of the things that you see in this shop, with the exception of the things that came from way of the channel, a lot of the lasers, those came because of the channel that started during all of this. And I'm going to do a separate video on how the channel started and how to get a YouTube channel started. But I wanted to kind of throw something out there. And if you've made it this far through the boring spreadsheets, which I feel like everybody needs to see, that it's not overnight, guys. It's going to be a drip. But if a drip continues long enough, eventually, you start seeing some returns on it. But if there was anything that I had advice wise for you guys, because you're always asking me, how did you get started with the laser engraving? It's going to be slow. Okay. And I'm going to try to do a video with my buddy Klein, because I have tried to take the stuff that I have learned and help Klein start himself out into the laser engraving world as I lean more into the content creation now. And I'm sending him work and helping him with his business. And I want to bring him on and do a video from his perspective as well. But it takes time. It takes persistence, dedication, and some long hours. Because keep in mind, if this is something you're going to do after you get off work, you're going to have to make sure it's something that you enjoy, so that extra spark from doing something creative or doing something that you enjoy kind of helps pull you through those days where you had a long day at work and really don't feel like doing anything. Because trust me, there's plenty of those. Okay. There's days that I come home and I'm like, I just want to be a normal person, go in the house, watch TV, lay around, not do anything. And then the other side of me is that's not how you got where you are. And if you quit now, you're going to lose what you've worked so hard to get to. And so a lot of people ask me, what drives you? What makes you keep doing that? Two things. One, I'm very hyperactive. Been that way all my life. I was the prime candidate for Ritalin when I was a kid. So that helps pull me through. But the mental pressures and stresses and the mental drain, there are days that I'm just like, I don't want to do nothing. And I have to really work hard to get motivated. Or sometimes Brandy will just kind of say, hey, you said you wanted to do this. You need to go do it. But another tip, and this is something that's very important for you guys with families, is having a family, especially your spouse, your wife, husband, whichever it may be, that supports what you're doing is very important. Because through this adventure, Brandy has been the one that, on those weeks where I was busy and man, I was just trying to get jobs out so that I didn't, get a bad rep with the customer or lose money on a job or whatever. Brandy was the one that would step up and fill in the blank, whether it be, weed eating, cutting grass, handling stuff with the kids. I mean, she does most all of that so that I can devote more energy into doing this. And the reason that we both work as well together, I think, with this is, one, we've been together for 30-ish years. But two, is I'm working towards something I can do after retirement. And when I retire, having a little bit extra income to go along with that retirement check is going to benefit me as well as going to benefit her. And it's a team effort. And so if you have a team and you have a really good team, it does make things a lot easier. Not saying you can't do it on your own, but it is easier having that person that can either motivate you at the end of the day when you really don't want to do anything, or can give you a little advice, because sometimes you see those tools and you're like, you know what, I could buy this, but then I'd be broke. And sometimes Brandy's like, okay, do you really want to be broke? Save your money until you see that tool that you know that you can make your money back with. But never get yourself in a position to where you owe other people in your business. I think that's a mistake that a lot of businesses make, is starting out and trying to go too big, too fast. And you overextend yourself, or you get yourself in debt to the point to where now if you have a slow week or two, which is going to happen, you're going to have slow months, you're going to have slow seasons. When that happens, if you owe a bunch of money and you have a bunch of expenses coming out, you're going to be in trouble, and it's going to help spiral you downward. So maintaining your overhead as low as possible is the best way to do it. And since I've started doing this, I have not bought anything on a gamble. I've not financed anything to in an attempt to make money with it. And I think that's some bad advice. If anybody tells you to go borrow $4,000 or $5,000 to do something, to start a business, it's not good advice. It's very reckless, because, like I said, the pressures of having to perform will block you mentally. Like your creativity will just get tapped if you're under too much stress. It also helps that you just enjoy what you do. Don't overdo it. Sprinkle it in if you need to. If you need to take a break, take a break. But starting your side hustle and getting it big enough to support you is challenging. But I'm to the point now to where my side hustle has actually outgrown me. I can't keep up. I can't keep up with the orders. I can't do everything everybody wants me to do. And so that's why now, guys, I do the buddy system. I got two buddies that have equipment. I help provide them with the equipment so they can take jobs from me and do those jobs and make themselves some money. I don't get anything back in return. I don't get any money off of them. I sometimes even help with the files. It may be a file that I have that somebody's like, hey, I want to order 10 of these. I'll send them the file and they can make it and sell it and make money for themselves. And that helps me and it helps them. It helps them because now they're able to finance their own gear. They're able to finance the other things that they need that I don't have to give them. And it also helps me because people are still able to come to me to find things and get it done. So even if I'm not the one doing the work, word on the street is if you need A, B, or C done, go talk to Clack and he can get it done for you. And a lot of these jobs that I'm sending to these guys, they're getting repeat customers. They're getting repeat jobs off these customers, and it's slowly building them up. And so that's something I want to get Klein in here to talk to you guys about. And I spoke with him, and he said he would love to do it. So maybe we'll do a follow-up on that. But if there was any advice, guys, like I said, persistence, patience, and be deliberate. Make sure it's just like walking on loose stones. Make sure that you got a good footing before you step into something. Because a lot of people, you'll see stuff for sale because they went and bought all this gear too quick and, can't support the cost. But if it's all paid for, if you don't overextend yourself, it makes that a lot better. And that's something that to this day, even though my toys have gotten a lot more expensive, such as the Shapeco CNC that I bought, that was a purchase. I'm not one that can just throw $10,000 at something or $5,000 at something. So when I spent $3,500 on that machine, I had to have a plan on how I was going to make my money back with it. Now that plan is not I'm going to buy it and I'm going to make my money back in 6 weeks. That is not a believable plan. My plan is that I believe that this machine will outlive the time that it will take me to recoup my money for this machine. And as long as it outlives the time that it takes me to get my money back from purchasing it, then all the money on the back end is going to be profit. And so far, between the jobs that I've done and everything, I would say I'm probably 2/3 of the way there. And I don't do as much CNC stuff as I should because I have people wanting laser stuff. But when the CNC jobs come in, whereas used to when I had the smaller CNCs, I would have to pass on a lot of jobs. Now with the 4 foot by 4 foot, I'm able to take those jobs and do them and turn out the products. So that's where you got to look at. You got to look at the fact that it's an investment in your business. You're not going to get immediate returns. You're going to have to be patient. You're going to have to work it. You're going to have to use it. You're going to have to get it out there and get it some exposure so that you start using that on jobs. But with the lasers, like I said, it's a little easier for me with having new machines and upgrading machines, but that's not to say that, if these machines weren't coming in or if I wanted to go out and purchase a machine, I could with the money that I got from my physical customers, the customers that I have every week. I have businesses that I reached out to. A lot of you seen the video on the stove covers that I do and cutting boards and stuff. Those guys keep me so busy that it is hard for me to do other projects. And that's what pays the bills here. I mean, every bill I have a customer that orders from me every month that what they pay me pays for everything else. So anything on top of their jobs that I do is just extra. That's money that I can invest in better equipment, better cameras for you guys, better microphones, whatever the case may be. So start off small, don't grow too fast, and never overextend yourself. Those are the three things that I would say are most important that I hear people talking about and that I see people talking about basically sets themselves up for failure. So I hope this helps, guys. It was just people keep asking, and Facebook marketplace is where I started selling most of my stuff, just word of mouth in the community, other businesses, businesses helping businesses. That's the way to make money, because you can hook up with these guys and they can help market your product and sell your product, and both of you can share in the profit. Even though you're not making as much, you're going to make up for in volume what you wouldn't have had if you hadn't partnered with that other business. So those are some things to consider, and I'm going to try to do a few more videos of this. I've got one. People are asking me about the YouTube channel, and I've talked to Brandy because I think she's instrumental in the history of the Shack channel, and we're going to be doing that one. And also, I want to sit down with Klein and have a talk about his experiences through his eyes, not just mine, to share with you guys. So until next time, guys, if you haven't already, be sure that you're subscribed to the channel, hit the notification bell so you'll know when those videos pop out. And other than that, be safe and have a good day.